Hey guys, how are we all? So this is going to be my first drop for my YouTube of a video that's actually of some duration, so you're going to have to bear with me here. I'm generally not great behind a camera, but I'm going to try and help you guys out with some tips and if I can. So yeah, please bear with me, eh? So I thought first up, what we might do, first topic of discussion that we might do is it's coming to that time of year we're hitting towards the end of winter, coming into spring. So it is going to be pretty much game on for the big flathead, where they head towards estuary mouths to start doing their thing and breeding. A lot of guys like targeting him in the shallows. I'm not really a deep water angler. I don't have a lot of deep water experience for flathead. So what I'm going to be concentrating on is in the shallows and stuff, because that's an area where I do have a fair bit of experience. So I thought what we might first do straight out is start talking about some lures that you might use, outfits that you might use, line, leader, knots and that sort of stuff, just to help you guys out and give you a bit of a direction of what I use. There's going to be heaps more stuff, heaps more products that I haven't mentioned in here that some of you will use. This is just what works for me. So first up, we'll take a look at some of the lures I use and why I use them, where I use them, and what I'm trying to replicate. So, from my 45 years of fishing experience, I've been probably chasing big flatties for about 35 of those years, and out of that, probably only the last 10 to 12 years on swim baits and surface lures and stuff like that. One thing that, for starters, that I'd like to point out is just a little few tips that I've learnt about chasing these fish. So these fish, when they're up in the shallows, in the warmer water, on the high tides, chasing whiting, chasing bait fish, gar, etc., these fish are up there for the sole purpose of feeding and warming themselves. Once a fish warms itself up in the sun, swim bladders also are obviously affected, which generates them to want to feed. They're up there actually feeding. Now you'll see flathead where you see them sitting in lies. I'm pretty sure everyone's seen footage on YouTube of where they sit around and they're lying on top of sandbanks, and guys have got drone footage and stuff like that of them. What I can assure you 100% that I've learned many moons ago is, pardon me, is that these fish, 9 times out of 10, they are not sitting in lying. These fish actively hunt, and they are fast, and they will actively roam around sandbanks looking for bait fish. Aggregations of bait fish, whiting have particular areas they like to sit. Anyone who's seen Greg Lemprecht from Wicked Fishing Adventures has noticed that they take up residence around certain black worm mounds that you get. They're there for a reason. Those worm mounds attract whiting then are attracted there by the worms, then the flatties are there to catch them. Alright, so that's one of the tips. What I like to then emulate or replicate is generally a bait fish that is present in the area, and I like to match the hatch, as they call it. So putting something of the same size in the same location. They're the two of the strongest keys that I can point out to you guys, is make sure that you're in an area where there is bait fish present, whiting, etc. over the flats, and also if you've got an area that has weed beds close by or is a big yabby bed, great areas to target as well. Big flatties like to hang around structure on the edges of rocks and sand, and make sure that you're fishing baits or lures that are the same size as the bait that is present. So we'll start off. For me, my first love is surface fishing for these guys. I love it. So I have a predominant, probably 3 or 4 lures that I love using for surface lures. I'm only going to show you one of them, or 2 of them here today, because these are the 2 that I use the most. First of all, the crossfire. These things just pull flathead. I love them. You can use them. I don't find colour really makes too much of a difference. These crossfires, this is the smaller one. So these ones here, that's a 155. You can go up to 200mm plus and fish them slow, nice long pauses. Walk them probably a foot or 2 feet, walking the dog, so keeping your rod tip down and stabbing your rod tip down, very slow wind and lots of pauses. These guys will hit them on the pause. If there is big flathead present and they are up in anywhere from 3 inches to about 1 metre depth, 1.5 meters, these things will catch fish. They are a great lure. Crossy, you make a damn good product there, mate. Love using these. So personally, my two favourite colours in these are this plain white pearl and the pearl with the red head, which I call the Qantas colour. I'm not sure what Crossy calls them, but yeah, these things absolutely work. Another one that I like to use on the surface, and it is a slow sinker, but by the time you start using this lure, and even if you're working it super slow, it is basically up near the surface. So these ones that I like to use for them, the 6 cents 5-inch tray swim baits. These things aren't cheap. They're 50-60 bucks a pop, whatever you can get them at, about 60 bucks a pop. If they are feeding on herring, these are the gun lure to use. Guys, Australian Bass Angler have these. Many tackle shops might have them by now. These things look absolutely pristine. They are basically a herring, so you can see the finish is really good on these. These things weigh an ounce, so they're not a massive swim bait, but they pull big fish. You can throw these on a lot lighter setups than you can normally throw with your bigger, heavier swim baits and stuff. These things will work extremely well on a super slow retrieve. You just want to give them nice slow wind, just a continual slow wind. You don't have to do anything crazy with the rod tip or anything. Just nice, super slow with little pauses in between, and big flathead will eat them. I like to carry them in an array of colours. I don't think colour really makes too much. I like the sparkle. I like that backbone with a bit of prism tape and stuff on there. It just stands out in the clearer water. So I have that one. And then the other colour that I also like to use is a live shiner. So that's a gold version with the blue back. Super light. That's the size there. These things are amazing. Right. Next lure that we might get onto to have a bit of a look at, the catches flatties on the shallow sandbanks. Obviously, there's a couple of others. So we've got one here. We have Mick Molnar's Whiting Glide. These things pull fish as well. I'm sure everyone's seen these. Super slow retrieve. These things, they've just got a reputation. These are a 51 gram slow sinker, this one. But you can work them really slow, just constant rod tip, little tiny tweaks to the rod tip if you so wish, or a slow retrieve. And these things will glide from side to side. Fish them super slow over those shallow sand flats early morning. Before I get on to the next lure, another thing that I'd like to make a point of to you guys, just so you know, or aware, some of you, most of you probably know this already. In springtime, when those big flatties are up on that sandbank, I don't personally like first thing in the morning. I find in spring, in the mornings, it's still generally a bit cooler on the high tides. I like it if I can get a high tide around 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock to even 10 o'clock in the morning. When that water's warmed up a bit, those fish seem to feed more. The only downside to that is finding an area where there's not heavy boat traffic or people haven't fished before. So that's a valid point there too. Alright, going on to a couple more lures here that I've got here that I like to use. This one doesn't have any trebles. I'm about to chuck trebles on it now. This thing is battle scarred as hell. Evergreen, Ibby flat shad. These things, very hard to find, but slow sinking, same retrieve, tight action. I generally fish them with a 2.0, 1.0, 2.0 hook on there. Nice strong hooks. You will want to throw these. They're probably about 1.5 ounces. You can throw these on a bit of a stiffer rod. The thing with glide baiting, you see a lot of guys and they're throwing heavier outfits. It's not so much because you need that for the fish. It's just solely so you can set the hooks on these fish, and for mainly, first and foremostly, it's allowing you to throw those bigger glide baits and the weights. You're not going to be able to throw them on 2 to 4 kilo or 3 to 6 kilo rods. I opt for a little bit heavier than that. So yeah, Evergreen, Ibby flat shad, another great lure. There's a couple of other ones in here that you can use. These are very, very different. These are highly segmented. You might look at it and go, hey, it's missing its tail. That's how they come. I'm not even sure what the make of this one is. To be honest with you, I've had it for so long, but super slow action. It's more like a lot of your Murray cod lures that you see guys using these days will work extremely effectively on them. Next one up, we've got, I don't even know who makes this one either, but I've had this for ages. This thing produces dew and big flatties left, right and centre. This is basically a mullet imitation swim bait. 2 ounces, or 2 and a bit. Great lure, super tight action on it. Slow wind as well. I'm pretty sure, so if anyone can point me out, any of my viewers or you guys know, on the top of it, this lure says SG Plus, AUR old. So that's it there. These things just produce super well as well. Evergreen, like I just showed you before, those evergreen flat shabs and stuff like that. So this is another one in the colour that I like. This is in the gold. These work extremely well as well. Righto, so moving on to something else that you guys have been more commonly seen than what I use. Johnny Costello, everyone knows. Soft glides. These things work a treat too. You can work them super slow over sandbanks. They're already come pre-rigged. One of them comes pre-rigged, and they're not hard to rig yourself. You can even make your own little variations on how you want to fish them. These things are super effective. Shallow sandbanks, nice twitches. I use the same sort of the same sort of technique I use on these that I will use called walking the dog. So getting it nice and moving side to side, nice and slow. Big fish just hone in on these. I like to throw these on a slightly heavier rod. You can get away with like a 5 to 8 kilo, I use 6 to 10 or whatever, to throw on these guys around. Another super effective lure. Then we've got old school favourites that everyone has probably seen before, that work exceptionally well. Now, I'm fortunate enough to have a shitload of these things. I have got a heap of them. Lucky Craft, Real AU, 178F floating. These things were probably one of the first lures, surface lures, glide baits that were on the market for Flathead. These things are really good. They are super effective. You can leave those feather trebles on or you can take them off. I will be taking these ones off, this particular one, and putting on some BKK fangs or whatever on here. You want to keep these on these, a nice short shank trebles. You want them, you don't want them sitting down too low. They work exceptionally well as well. If you can't find, well, you won't be able to find those lures anymore, but what you can use that also work really well, Gangcraft jointed claws in the smaller sizes. So this one here is Gangcraft 145, so yeah. In any colour. I like the whites. Nighttime, throwing them around sand flats at night works equally as well. People seem to think, no, flatties won't feed on glide baits and stuff on the shallow sandbanks on high tide at night. These things still love to catch fish at night. Yeah, flatties are actually probably more so active up there overnight, particularly if it's high tide, early evening. So you can use them. You can also go through and you can use your stock standards like your chippetrels. You can throw your gantrels, gigantor, whatever you want to throw at these things. So that's a couple more of the glides and hard bodies that I like in there. For those guys who like to do a bit more surface, perhaps, these aren't going to be quite as big, but I can tell you right now, if you've seen these on the market yet, and everyone would have, ProLure Ultra Gar floating version, fish them slowly over a sand flat during the day or night, and big flatties will absolutely crawl all over these things. They look amazing. You can get the floating or the sinking. They work well on flatties as equally as well as what they work on tuna and mackerel. They are a great lure as well. Another one that I love to use, it's a much smaller lure, but still works well, equally well on flatties. It's the old, looks a bit unorthodox, but the old Mega Bass Anthrax. These things work ultra good. Upside down, bib lure, basically a wake bait. It goes just on the surface and it creates a wake, and the flatties love those things as well. So now that we've covered a couple of them, I'll just briefly go to a couple of plastics that I like to use. Probably two that stand out the most besides soft glide. Molex RT Shad. You can get them in the 4.5 or bigger, whichever size you want. 4.5 generally a starting point. Great looking lure, great plastic. Rig them weightless or put on an ultra light weight on them, big hook, lots of hook exposure. You need lots of hook exposure to be able to really set the hooks on those big flathead. They've got a big strong mouth and you need something that is going to penetrate them. Another one that I've found that works well, Holt swim prawn. But forget your 3-inch, forget your 4-inch, go, if you want to chase big flathead, the first mindset that you really need to get into is you're going to have to leave the small gear, small lures alone. If you want that trophy fish, leave the small gear alone and solely focus. You may get a lot of donut sessions, but let me tell you, you will definitely get a better class of fish if you stick to using the bigger lure. So you can go through, pretty sure I had some in here somewhere. Stick to your 5-inch. These things are a serious lump of plastic. I rig them weightless and on a worm hook, or if they do, I have a little bit of lead that sits on the worm hook under the keel here. Hook exposure about here. You don't really need a stinger. Big fish will swallow these still. They are great. They work super effectively on your big flathead. Now, when it comes to let's chuck these over here. Pardon me. When it comes to outfits to throw these, a lot of guys use bait casters, some use spin. It's a personal preference. The one thing that I can't emphasize enough is you want to have an outfit that is able to throw these lures. If you're throwing 1 ounce, yeah, you can get away with lightish sort of gear, because you're going to have to use decent braid. You know, you're going to have to use something that is thin diameter, but I like to use something around that 20 to 33 pound braid, just to be able to throw these glides and glide baits, swim baits. Not so much bent minnows and the crossfires and stuff like that, because they're not quite as heavy. But it's to be able to throw these big lures and to set the hooks. You need to set the hooks on these fish. You know, I've been fortunate enough where I've been able to, I've rallied up 5 fish over a metre, including a 111 and 103 and a 104. And I really needed the power in that rod to be able to do it. So if you're a guy who, just say you're not used to throwing bait casters, a lot of young blokes out there who aren't used to throwing bait casters, spin will always generally get you more distance. Distance away from you when you're wading those flats is paramount. You want to throw in areas where you haven't spooked fish. For me personally, what I like to use, so I'm currently using, this is the Miller Beast Buster. So this thing here, I'll just take this off so we can give you a look at both rod, reel, what I use. So this one here, yeah, like I was saying, the Miller Beast Buster. Great outfit, absolutely love it. You get that extra foregrip there if you want. I use this thing for light tackle, longtail tuna and stuff as well. You might think overkill. I can tell you for setting the hooks, it's great. It's a 7'6" 2-piece. It says 7 to 21 grams. I can assure you I have no problem throwing 2.5 ounces on it. I have this matched up with a 3000 size Dyer Exist, 15 model Exist, and 33 pound Saltiga 12X braid. I generally will run my heavier lures on this, and I will throw my crossfires because they can get the distance. I will fish leaders. If I'm using soft glides, crossfires, the whiting glides, the Holt's prawn, I will use a 20 to 25 pound leader. If I am using things like my bigger swim baits, my heavier swim baits, I'll up that to a 40 pound leader, and I will throw that on bait cast. If I use my bait cast outfit, which is this one, so this here is the Millerite Switch Freak. I've got this one matched up to a 200 size Shimano Calcutta TDC digital cast. I will throw this one. This one here is it's a power rod. So this one here, yeah, this one here is 7'5", I think, or 7'4" for 7'5". So this is up to 50. I go 65 grams on it, and it's a 7 to 12 kilo. So that's it there. Lots of power. I can get lots of distance with this rod. A lot of guys are opting for bigger rods, like 8 foot plus, 9 foot. I found I can throw my bait caster with a heavy lure just as far as the guys can throw their longer rods on them. What else can I tell you guys? Persistence is the key. It's like if you're one of those mulloway guys and you're chasing dewies and stuff like that, you'll know that you're going to have a lot of donut sessions, but the fish that you catch, if you stick to it, are trophy fish. This will require patience, and you do have to leave that small gear at home. I simply can't emphasize it. Forget your small gear, put that away, and just focus on these big flathead at this time of year, because once you've got one in your sight and you start shaking and you've got it hooked up, it is a feeling that will never leave you. It will stay with you for the rest of your life. Your first big flathead, 90 plus, is going to be etched in your memory. So what you want to do is, just focus on those things, concentrate on these lures, do a lot of research. Google Earth. Back when I started fishing, there was no mobile phones or any of that, or Google Earth and stuff, so we had to do it by ourselves, which I believe makes a better angler. Time on the water is always going to make you a better angler than any social media platform will. But I like to help people, and although I don't give spots away, that's just something I personally don't do. I'm all for helping others in learning how to do these things, what to use, when to use them. But yeah, I'm not going to go into locations and stuff like that out of respect for other guys who fish areas as well. So hopefully this has taught you a little bit, given you a little bit of insight. Get out there. The prime times between basically starting now up until end of October, early November, for these big springtime flatties, and get on top of those flats. If you think that water is too shallow, think again. These things will happily sit in 3 inches of water, and they will actively feed in that depth of water. Up to say a metre and a half tops for fishing glides and top waters. Also another effective lure that I didn't even forget to mention, the bigger MMD McMollers splash prawns, the bigger ones, they work exceptionally well too. You just got to do lots of long pauses, and they work exceptionally well. But I like to use my glides, I like to use my crossfires, I like to use my 6 cents trace, the 5-inch swim baits, my EB flat shads, and my anthraxes as well. So hopefully, guys, I've given you a bit of an insight. If there's anything at all that you guys would like to know, or if there's anything else that I can do to help you out, please either feel free to give me a DM, flick me through a message. When I've got the time, I'll always reply to anything that I get and help anyone out as much as I can. So thanks for watching. I'm only new to this YouTube, so it'd be great if I could grab just a couple of subscribers. I'm not out here to make money. I'm out here to help people, and that's first and foremost and the only reason why I've decided to take on a YouTube channel. So yeah, the more subscriptions that I can get, the more likes and stuff, that just helps to widen my network out to get to more people that obviously could use a bit of tuition or whatever. So thanks guys for watching, taking the time, girls as well. Been great, giving you a little bit of insight, and there will be a lot more content like this coming towards you soon, hey? So yeah, thanks for watching once again, and have a great day, guys.